Welcome to Licensed RPGs, where we discuss RPGs that also happen to be licensed. Today we're going to be taking a look at Shaman King, Legacy of the Spirits Soaring Hawk-Spring Wolf, which was released in February 2005 for the Game Boy Advance in the US. This game manages to blend together elements from two beloved and long-standing franchises. These franchises being Pokemon and Shaman King. Before we get into the mechanics, we should discuss the plot. Plot-wise, this game covers the beginning of the series, with Morty and Yo's first encounter, and ends with the rescue of Len from his uncle. Afterwards, the game develops into a filler arc about a millennial-old shaman and his quest for power. On a whole, the plot feels rather rushed, since the game can be beaten in under 10 hours, making the game feel like the Cliff Notes version of the early story arcs. But the game does make some decent use of its time to accurately represent the characters, which makes it far more appealing than something like Yu Yu Hakusho Tournament Tactics, which was also released on the Game Boy Advance. But I'll discuss that in another episode. On a slight tangent before I move on, the game does have a few dialogue changes that are truly messed up. A good example of this is after you beat Sylvia, where he delivers this little gem of a line: "Only a Shaman King with a pure heart. Good luck, young Shaman fighter." Gameplay-wise, the game combines elements from Pokemon Shaman King as stated previously, and delivers this with a turn-based combat system. The combat itself relies heavily on Pokemon, with each move having a set amount of power points, or PP for short. Another common element with Pokemon is the spirits and moves are elementally aligned, with certain elements being strong, neutral, or weak against the other elements. Sadly, this mechanic is almost wasted, because there's almost no real effect on combat for the most part. Another element stolen from Pokemon is the fact you can capture wild spirits, utilizing a mortuary tablet, which can be purchased from Sylvia in the shopping district. And like Pokemon, these tablets come in different types, which can affect your catch rates. Albeit, you can probably just ignore this system and rely on the spirits you acquire throughout the story by beating certain enemies into a bloody pulp. The Shaman King elements start to come into effect when you deal with the fusion system, which can be performed in the town museum. Sadly, this artifact's power is tied to your story progress, so it's impossible to get higher-ranking spirits until the game allows you to. This is probably one of my biggest frustrations with the game, because of how limited your roster space is. Until you can carry on 20 spirits, with 6 of them being in your party, but you can switch them around outside combat at any time. This lack of room makes building a team of powerful spirits through the fusion system rather difficult, since the most efficient way to get the spirits you want is to fuse 2 identical spirits together in order to rank up on the previous spirit. Of course, you can consider fusing spirits from different classes together in order to get a spirit of the class you desire as well. In total, the 2 versions of this game include 11 classifications for spirits and a total number of 176 unique spirits, with an additional secret spirit can be acquired by entering a series of button presses on the title screen. If you have an empty slot in your roster, of course. Another element from the Shaman King series, each of the spirits has a rank associated with it. These ranks can be checked out by hitting the R button. Sadly, the system makes most of the early spirits almost useless because they're low ranks. This means a spirit like Emiyamoto is so overwhelmingly powerful that you'll probably rely on him heavily throughout the entire game. In fact, this ties to one of my other complaints with the game. There's no reason to train up a team of spirits, since you can easily beat the game by simply relying on Miyamoru and heading back to your house to heal and save your game whenever you want. And if you're in the middle of a dungeon, you can simply leave and come back without any sort of penalty. So moving on, I have rather little to say about the game graphically and sound-wise, to be upfront. The game is decent enough in terms of visuals and what you expect for a GBA title. The only major downside of the game is the sound department. Its rather limited number of musical tracks is sort of depressing. In fact, you can probably count them all in one hand. Overall, I'd say Shaman King Legacy of Spirits Soaring Hawk-Spring Wolf is enjoyable if you're a fan of the series, but maybe less rewarding for those that aren't familiar with the franchise. And if this game makes a poor substitute for Pokemon, since it lacks the emphasis on elemental alignments and unsatisfying friends to Shaman King, because the fusion system itself is rather shallow.